Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Thornburg. Healing makes the past irrelevant and rewrites history. This is a sentence I said to a mom who's in my practice. She has grandchildren in my practice now. For some reason, I see this more with the intergenerational moms, and I really don't ever see it with the dad. But not a surprise, most generational healing comes through the maternal line because of the primary caregivers. The dads come in after 3 years old, and that's more of how to work yourself into society. Dads are more about separation, while moms are more about bonding. This one mom had contacted me because what we see, and I've mentioned this before when we have generational trauma affecting a family, that, our moms give us good things, our dads give us good things, and they also give us bad things. And most of those good and bad things are deeply written into our behavior to the depth that we're not even aware that we behave in a certain way when we're under stress or we feel defensive or things aren't going away. And this really comes out when we have children, because nobody's going to stretch us as far as a child. When we're single, before we meet our partner who we're going to have a child with, we learn what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And then we'll date, and somebody might show us something that we like, and then another person shows us something we don't like, and then we define further who we are. But we're never really stretched out that far, at least not in our culture. And then when we meet our partner that we eventually decide to have a child with, obviously they don't take us to the places of our personality that we don't like to go, hopefully. When we have the child, you're 100% submerged, immersed in a ride that you can't get off of for 18 plus years. Because of that, because you can't get off the ride, kind of like Henry Ford's assembly line, there is no stop button. So it's a little unlike Henry Ford's assembly line. There's no stop button. And because you're constantly in it, you will be taken to places emotionally that you haven't been prepared for because you've never had to deal with yourself at that level. And those behaviors that come out, whether you're really aggressive with your partner, with your child, you're not taking care of yourself and you used to take really good care of yourself, or you see that it's intergenerational, the grandmother on the daughter who now has a child, it seems to rattle us, and then we act and yell and scream and get defensive and lie and do things that we just never thought we would do, because most of us think that we're good people. We don't like to think of ourselves as being out of control. And again, we don't recognize when we're doing this because our parents traumatized us in such a deep way. It's written into the code. It's like asking a dog not to bark when they see a rabbit run across the road. They're just going to do what they do, and we do what we do as parents when we get stretched that far. And so returning back to this grandmother that contacted me when I said healing erases the past and rewrites history, is because that grandmother has gone through all the stages of parenting and now is looking back from a wiser position and realizes, I did a lot of things that I didn't understand I was doing, and now I've had a chance to heal myself. And now I'm looking at my daughter who has a child, and she's behaving how I behaved in the past, defensive and pushing back. And that child is going through the same parenting journey that the grandmother is. And it's hard to take somebody out of that journey because you're not ready to heal until you're ready to heal. And so we have this daughter in the mix who is really having a difficult time with the unaware parenting style that the mother is exhibiting, that the grandmother's hoping will stop. And all I could say to the grandmother was, you just have to sit in loving silence with your daughter. And when she's ready to heal, when she's ready to look and say, I understand how my mom and dad affected me and I'm ready to correct that, then you just can't do much about it because you're in the mix, you're submerged and you're defensive and you feel lost, and it's a difficult place, and we all go through this. The beauty of it is when you hit that kind of elder statesman parent kind of position like a grandmother, then you have the ability to sit with your child in silence and love them right where they're at. That's the only prescription I can suggest and write for parents who really want to help their children with their own parenting experience, because that parent, that in-between parent, the parent of the child, the grandchild, and the parent who has the grandparent that's kind of concerned about their parenting style, sit with their parenting style. Because if you come and speak to the child, to your child who is the mother, then they're just going to push you back because that's where they're at. They're trying to find their own way, and they look at it as you're being interfering, which is probably where the pushback comes from childhood, because now they feel like the parent's trying to control me again, and that reminds me of childhood, and it takes them back. So just remember, you want to sit in loving silence with your children, and healing will come over time. It may not be on your timetable. Nobody's healing is on anybody else's timetable except their own, and that's what's going to heal generational trauma. And for some reason, it affects women more than men. Men come into the play when you're dealing with a child that's going off into the world, because the dad, again, is about separation and mom is about bonding. Dad's going to really come into play when the child's going off into the world and how to deal with the world in general, which has a very different storyline. And I'll talk about that another time. Thanks a lot.